وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Praise be to Allah. We seek His help and His forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls and from our bad deeds. Whomever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is only one God, having no partner. I bear witness that Muhammad ﷺ is His messenger. وَاتِّقُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. And pay heed unto Allah Ta'ala and His Apostle so that you may be graced with mercy. So the topic of the khutbah today will be focused on the idea of mercy in Islam, the idea of mercy and compassion. In Arabic, the term is rahmah. And we want to think about what does the Quran have to tell us about rahmah? Why is it such an important thing for us in our religion? And then what are some practical steps that we can take in terms of thinking about the importance of mercy in our daily lives? So go from an abstract idea to something that we can implement in our daily lives. Why is mercy important? Why should we care about mercy? And a lot of times when we think about mercy, people think about mercy as an attribute of weakness, that people have to ask for mercy. They have to beg for mercy, right? We have this phrase in English, beg for mercy, right? So it's something that at a point of weakness you do. But in our tradition, we think about mercy in a very different way. That mercy can actually be an attribute of strength. That compassion is actually an attribute of strength. And I want to sort of explain and think about that idea. So one of the first things that we talk about whenever we recite the Quran is the Bismillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, right? With the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, right? Rahman, Rahim. They both come from the Arabic root Rahm, Rahami, right? This idea of mercy, beneficence, compassion. So we're constantly saying it. Every verse in every chapter of the Quran begins with the Bismillah. So we're constantly saying it. But what does the Bismillah mean? Why is it important for us to understand it? So the first thing is that Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, these are both names of Allah, right? Very important names. So that mercy, this idea of mercy, is an attribute of God. It's one of the names of God. So God is merciful. Now what does it mean when God is merciful to us? So the first thing is that He is the source of maghfirah, mercy, forgiveness towards us. So God is merciful towards us, right? So despite our sins, despite our shortcomings, God's mercy pours onto us in every aspect of our lives. The fact that you're alive right now is a sign of God's mercy. God has given us mercy to live another day. God has given us health. He's given us life. Whatever benefits that we have in this life are a sign of God's mercy, right? Now we can always look at people that are better than us, that are richer than us, that are healthier than us, that have more than us, and say, look, we don't have as much as they have. But what's important for us when we think of mercy is to look at people who are beneath us, people who don't have as much as us, people who are suffering in greater amounts than us, people who have died and we are alive, right? So that life itself is a great mercy and something to be thankful for. So the first thing that we have to think about as we're thinking about mercy is think about what are the ways in which divine mercy and forgiveness are seen in our daily lives. The fact that you woke up this morning is a mercy, right? That's something that we should be grateful for and think about, right? So that's the first thing. So that before even your feet hit the ground, you thank God for His mercy, right? The first thing is forgiveness, maghfirah. So the second thing that we think about is that Rahman Rahim, right? So there are these two words, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, with the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. What is the difference between Rahman and Rahim, right? So a classical scholar of Islam said that Rahman is the greater mercy for all of humanity, for all of the world. And Rahim is a smaller mercy that is given to people who believe, or it's given to people in the day of judgment, right? So there's a saying of the Holy Prophet, ﷺ, that Allah Ta'ala has 100 mercies. 99 of those mercies He has reserved for Himself for the Day of Judgment. And there's one mercy, and that one mercy is all of humanity in the entire world around us. So every aspect of mercy in your life, the fact that a mother loves her child, the fact that animals take care of each other, the fact that people are kind to each other, all of those in this entire world, from the beginning of time until the end of time, is only one of God's mercy. So imagine how vast God's mercy is. That only one part of His 100 parts of mercy have been given to us. That every kindness, every compassion that human beings have, that the mother has for the child, that animals have for each other, right? All of those things are only one part of God's divine mercy. So the second thing to think about is how vast God's mercy is. So God's mercy is not something that is exhaustive. It's not like you have $100 and you give away, $99 of those dollars and you're only left with $1. God's mercy is in such a way where if you give of it, then more comes to you. Just the same principle of sadaqah, right? When we give to others, when we give to the poor, what does Allah promise us in the Quran? That more comes to us, right? And that the blessings of those are like 7 years of corn, and each ear of corn has so many blessings and those sorts of things, right? So God's mercy works the same way. It's not finite. It's not something that you have only a certain amount of, and once you give it up, it's done. God's mercy replenishes itself from the time we're born until the time we die, right? So the second thing to remember is God's mercy is infinite. You can never exhaust God's mercy. Right? Whenever you think that maybe you're in the worst situation, where things are going very badly, there sometimes is a sign of God's divine mercy upon you. Something good will happen, right? And so those aspects of goodness in your life are part of God's divine mercy. All right? So one of the things that is an aspect of God's mercy, right, is that He's patient with us for our frailties and for our ignorance and for our sin, right? So we're doing things, we're constantly committing sins of commission, sins of omission. We're doing things that we don't even think about are bad, and God doesn't necessarily bring His wrath upon us, right? So if we didn't have God's mercy, could we ever find salvation? Could we ever be saved? Do you think that you're always good enough? That your good sins are always going to outweigh your bad sins? Do you think that everything you're doing is always good? We don't know how we're living our lives. We try to live our lives to the best of our ability, and that's where God's mercy comes. We have our intention, we try to be better people, and then God's mercy kicks in, right? So we can only do so much, right? We can't control every thought. We can't control the effect of every action that we have, right? We could do things and not even know that eventually it's going to have a negative result, right? We can say something to somebody, and someone can take it the wrong way and get upset and be angry at us. We didn't even know that we said something wrong to somebody else, right? And somebody can hold that against us. But it's at that point when God's divine mercy kicks in. So God's mercy is so great that He allows us the possibility of salvation. That without His mercy, without His generosity, without His forgiveness of us, we could never find salvation. We could never enter paradise. We could never be the best versions of ourselves. Right? So that's something to remember, is that we're focusing on that rahmah, maghfirah, forgiveness, mercy. So what does that mean then for us as people? So if we're constantly receiving God's mercy, from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, the time that we're dreaming, the time that we get our food, we're constantly receiving some version of God's mercy, then what is our responsibility to other people? Right? And so that is the next step then. If we know and we're aware that we're constantly receiving God's mercy, then what's important for us is to be merciful to other people, to other beings, to the planet, to everyone that we can encounter. We might not have a lot of money, we might not have a lot of power, but there's in some way we can be merciful towards other people, right? Be compassionate towards other people, all right? So I'm I teach at FIU. I'm a professor of Islamic studies at FIU. And so I don't make a lot of money. But one of the things that I do is I give grades to kids. Okay, so I'm very compassionate and merciful in giving grades to kids. People get A's in my class very easily. Okay, so that's my small way of trying to be merciful and compassionate towards people, right? Helping people to get good grades in my class, helping them to learn and stuff like that. That's a way of giving mercy, right? So it doesn't cost me anything. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of power. But there's one thing in my life that I can control is giving grades to people, and I help people get A's in my class, right? So that's one way of giving compassion, right? So you got to think about what are the small ways in your life where you have some sort of power, some sort of authority, some way to help people, and how can you become passionate and merciful to the people that you encounter in your daily life, right? And so by doing that, by being merciful, by being compassionate, what does that mean? That means that we are acknowledging God's mercy and favor upon us. We're aware of God's divine mercy, of His grace, of His power. Okay? So that's something that's very important for us to remember and to think about. When we think about the world then, right? One of the things that we see in the Quran is that the Quran is constantly telling us that the signs of His mercy are everywhere. Surah Al-Fajr, the daybreak, Zalzala, the earthquake. There are constantly signs, right, of the world around us. God's constantly saying, for those who reflect, for those who think, right? So then the other thing that we want to think about is that it's not simply God's mercy for us in our daily lives, but think about how our life on this earth is a manifestation of God's mercy, right? How many planets are there in the solar system, right? There are 8 or 9 planets in the solar system. Do any of the other planets have life on them? How many worlds are there out there? And we still haven't figured out if there's life on them, right? So imagine such a huge cosmos, vast amounts of space that are in the world, and we were granted for our souls to come to this earth. And that itself is a great blessing, right? When we think about the day and the night, the oceans, the planets, the fact that there's great destruction, but there's great creation in the world, right? Those things are all mercies for us. So think about the natural world as something of mercy, and then think about how in our daily lives we can be more appreciative of God's mercy, right? So one of the big things in our age right now that we're having to deal with is the destruction of our environment. We know that the way that humans are pushing and living in this world, we're pushing the world towards an environmental collapse, right? The world is getting more polluted. We have like a continent of plastic in the ocean. The world is getting warmer and warmer. Weather patterns are getting disrupted. Desertification is happening. There's flooding happening. There's all types of environmental destruction that's happening in many parts of the world, right? So the question is then, if God is merciful to us, we are merciful to other people, then what responsibility do we have to be merciful to our environment, to the world that we're living in, right? So our mercy also has to extend not just to us, but to other living beings. To have compassion for others as well, for other animals, other types of life that exist in the world. So God's mercy isn't just for human beings. God's mercy then extends to the natural world, to all living beings, to all of humanity, right? So the question is, how do we live our lives in a way where we can do something positive for the environment and for the world that we live in, right? So God's mercy then, those who are righteous and earn His forgiveness. That's something that's important to think about, right? So His mercy increases for us as we do good deeds, as we are thankful for His blessings, right? So as we become more aware of God's mercy, then God's mercy increases upon us, and we have the ability then to give that mercy to other beings, right? So that's something that's very important. And we think about God's mercy ultimately for the Day of Judgment. So on the Day of Judgment, our mouths are not going to speak for us, right? So there's the hadith of the Prophet, even in the Quran, there are verses that talk about the idea that what happens on the Day of Judgment. So if we have this one mercy for our lives, The 99 mercies that are left of the Lord are going to be given to us on the Day of Judgment. So what's going to happen on the Day of Judgment? How do we receive God's mercy on the Day of Judgment? Right? So one of the things that's going to happen on the Day of Judgment is that our mouths are not going to be able to speak for us. Our hands are going to speak for us. Our body is going to speak for us. Other things are going to speak for us, and are going to say, did we live a good life or did we live an evil life? Right? So God's mercy then is going to come to us even in our physical form. Right? How we treat our bodies, how we treat each other, things that we do with our bodies are going to have an impact on the Day of Judgment. Right? So it's not simply what we think or how we think who we are as people, but we have to think about our bodies as well. That our bodies are also receptacles of God's divine mercy. So how do we treat our body? Are we merciful? Do we honor what God has given us in our bodies and how we act towards other people? So think about what we're doing with our hands. Think about what are we doing with our tongue. What are we doing with our physical body to receive God's mercy? Right? How do we purify ourselves through our actions, through our thoughts, to receive God's divine mercy? So there's a famous scholar, Imam Ghazali, who lived in the 10th and 11th century, 11th and 12th century, and he said that the heart is like a mirror, right? The more good deeds we do, the more that mirror becomes polished and it can reflect God's divine light, right? So that's something that we have to think about, is that God's mercy for us is not something that's finite, and it's not something that just begins and ends. It's something that's ongoing. Every day you're receiving God's divine mercy. And the question is, how do we receive more of it? And how do we project it more of that onto the people that are around us? Allah says in the Quran, tell my servants that I am the forgiving, the merciful one, and that my punishment is the painful punishment. Allah Ta'ala says that He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He is gentle with those with whom He wishes, and He exercises mercy, and He is distant and severe with those whom He wishes to treat with rigor. Right? So God is gentle and kind to us if we are merciful and kind towards other people. And He's difficult with us if we are difficult with other people. The next part of the khutbah I want to talk about is the Bismillah. So we're constantly saying this all the time. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Why are we constantly being told to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Every chapter of the Quran begins with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. With the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Why does every chapter of the Quran begin with that? Why are we asked to say this every time we begin something new? Why are we asked to say this when we start when we start to eat, when we get out of bed? Why are we constantly asked to say the Bismillah? So the Bismillah is important because it is, in a way, the beginning of all things, right? So by saying the Bismillah, in a way what we're doing with our words and with our thoughts is we are echoing the creation of the world itself. Alright? So the world begins, it's created with the Bismillah. And so what we're doing is we are honoring God every time we say the Bismillah. We are acknowledging that Allah Ta'ala has created the world, and it's His mercy that sustains the world. Without His mercy, this entire world would collapse. We would all die. All of creation would be destroyed. It's only with God's mercy that the world is sustained, that we are alive today. So every time we say the Bismillah, we're acknowledging God's divine power in His creation. What did Noah say before he got into the ark? The Bismillah. What is written upon Adam's thigh? The Bismillah. What is written on the wing of the angel Gabriel? The Bismillah. What is on the seal of Solomon? The Bismillah. And what was on the tongue of Jesus? The Bismillah. So the Bismillah is something that has gone throughout history, from the beginning of time to today. So the Bismillah is a sacred verse. It's a powerful verse. It's a verse that creates. It's a verse that connects us to God. It's a verse of mercy and compassion. That's why the Bismillah is so important. And we all constantly need to be saying the Bismillah. The Bismillah is not just words.